everyone, it's Frida and welcome to my channel. In today's video I'm going to make this Cloisonne enamel bangle bracelet. I've learned Cloisonne enameling 20 something years ago in an art school in Europe. Let's get to the project. I had this long strip of copper in my storage for years and I decided that I might do something with it. It has a good body to it, so it's going to be perfect for a bracelet. I measured the length and I cut it off with my saw. I filed the ends to make them nice and smooth. I have to make a nice circle out of this copper strip, so I nailed it to make it softer. It's pretty thick, so it took a little time, but I warmed it up nice and red. We usually drop it in cold water. In this case, I dropped it in pickle just to speed up the process. The pickle cleaned off the oxides which developed during nailing. Now that it was nice and clean, I went outside to the anvil and using the horn of the anvil, I folded a nice circle out of this copper strip. I filed the ends more to make them fit perfectly together. I tied the bracelet together with a mild steel wire to have a tighter connection. I put some flux where the ends meet and I cut off some solder. I placed the solder on the inside of the bracelet where I want the connection to happen and I started to warm up the piece with my torch from underneath. After that I applied some heat from above too until the solder melted. I pickled the bracelet and after it was nice and clean I went out to the anvil to even out the circle. My dog is so curious, of course he had to check out what I'm doing. I came back and I cleaned off the solder with my needle files. The mirror work part of this project is done. The next step was to fold the cloisonné wires. I designed a repetitive pattern which goes around the bracelet. This design highlights a simple but cute butterfly with some ornamental accents. I'm using copper wires for this project. You can use fine silver wires if you prefer that, but with these high silver prices, copper can be a really good choice. It's not harder to work with copper, you just have to pickle your piece after each firing. Cloisonné wires are flat wires and I made them previously in my rolling mill. They stand on their edges and they're going to separate the colors. I put them on a tape to prevent losing them. I'm using small pliers and a tweezer to fold these delicate wires to match my design. When the wire work was done, I chose the colors I'm going to use for this bracelet. I'm going to use two opaque colors this time. I lied because actually I'm going to use a third color, which is a dark blue, to create a midnight blue, mixing it with the black. I mixed these two colors about half and half and it created a beautiful shade which I didn't have. First, I started to apply the enamel on the inside of the bracelet. I'm using this beautiful vivid orange which is going to create a nice contrast with the dark blue. Using a paintbrush, I apply enamel on the whole surface, turning the bracelet around bit by bit. When I covered the surface everywhere, I waited the enamel to dry and I fired it in my kiln on 1400 Fahrenheit for 2 minutes. I pickled the bracelet to remove the oxides which developed during firing. When it was clean, I went ahead and I applied a thin layer of dark blue on the outside curve of the bracelet. You might have noticed that I'm not using clear fuse here. We don't need to do that this time because we're using opaque colors. The opaque colors are going to hide the oxides going to develop on the surface of the copper during firings. Now it was time to put the wires on the surface. I'm using a tweezer and I'm using glue to secure the wires until the next firing. The glue comes very handy here when we work on curved surface. You can just put a section on and wait the glue to dry and turn your bracelet around and put another section on and keep on going. I needed a break, so I went outside and I made a tea. When I came back, I fired the bracelet off camera. During firing, the base coat melted, so the wires got stuck in it. It's important to mention that I pickled the bracelet to remove the oxides from the wires which developed during the firing. Now I'm applying a layer of color in between the wires. If you watched my video this far, maybe you're interested in learning cloisonné enameling. If you do, I have a course for you which is available on Patreon. It's a beginner-friendly 3-part course and we're making this beautiful Trillium Cloisonne enamel piece. I provide a detailed explanation and you can follow me step by step, and by the end of this course you're going to end up with a beautiful Cloisonne enamel piece. I'm going to leave the link in the description below. Now let's get back to the project. I'm not using glue here. The trick is that you have to use a little bit drier enamels. This way the enamel is not going to drip all over the place. The enamel is still wet, so it's still going to get stuck on the surface and between the cells. You need a little patience here because obviously it's a little bit harder to do than if you would enamel on flat surface. I made a ring not too long ago. Check that video out if you're interested. That's another example of enameling on curved surface. I put the link up in the corner. When all the cells were filled, I put the enamel aside to dry. Until it dried, I went outside and I had my tea and I took Lucky for a walk. We went to check out a blooming agave. It's a super bloom this year, so many of them blooming, and you know what that means. Some of them live for 25 years and they only bloom once at the end of their lives. It's bittersweet to witness because after they bloomed, they just dry out and wither away slowly. When we came back, the enamel was dry, so I fired it in my kiln on 1400 Fahrenheit for 2 minutes. I pickled it and I applied the second layer of colors. We need to do this because enamel shrinks during firing. I usually apply 3 layers and I did the third off camera. Until you watch me do this, let's answer a question I got on my last video. The question is, what type of images work, or do you draw everything yourself? Usually, before I start designing my work, I get inspired by something. If I don't, I look for inspiration. I usually find it in nature, but sometimes I find it in art. For example, I'm really inspired by Art Nouveau. I did some pieces inspired by that. When I know what I wanna do, I go online usually and I look for images. Based on those images, I make my own designs. I hope you found this interesting. If you have any question, leave it down below in the comment section. I'm going to pick one for my next video. When I finished firing the last layer of colors, one more step remained of this process, and that was the sanding. Guys, if you would like to see more enameling videos from me, please check out this playlist. I would like to also let you know that I have an online store. I'm going to leave the link down in the description. We need to do this sanding because we want to make the surface smooth and we want to expose the wires. I'm using diamond pads and a lot of water for this. When I was happy with it, I had to do one last firing. We need to do that because enamel loses its shine during the sanding. After this last firing, I pickled it one more time and I polished the edge of the bracelet. This is how it turned out and I really love these colors together. Let me know guys what you think. If you like my work, please consider supporting my channel on Patreon so I can make more interesting videos in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and please like and share my videos and also comment on them. Thank you guys so much for watching and see you in the next video. Bye!